if you're new to a project or looking to become more familiar with a code base, Tabnine provides a number of tools that will help you to navigate and to understand that code base. The first of these is something called the Onboarding Agent, and you can access this through the chat panel. So clicking on this link, you'll be presented with quite a lot of information about the project that you're looking at. So here we're being presented with a very thorough description and explanation of the entire, well, at a high level, what it is that the project does. This will then be followed by a number of follow-up questions, such as what is the purpose of each sub-project in the collection. So let's click on that. This is a Maven project with many modules within the parent module. And so here Tabnine is providing me with really extensive documentation or extensive description of the purpose of each of these modules within my project. So this is a great way to get started with a code base that you're not familiar with. Another way that you can explore your project or your workspace is by just asking natural questions, natural language questions of the chat assistant. So for example, I know that somewhere in our code base, we set a date of birth from a string. I just don't know exactly where that is. And so I can ask that question of my chat assistant. And so here I can see that we perform that operation in a method called setDateOfBirth in the person class. There's a quick snippet of what this looks like from a code perspective, and also down the bottom here I'm presented with references. These are links to the file or method in question. So if I click on this first reference, it will open up the method in question in my IDE. So it brings me straight to that code. Now you might notice in the bottom right corner there is this Workspace Toggle, and what this indicates is whether or not Tabnine is using the awareness that it has built up about your workspace over time. And your IDE workspace, of course, can be comprised of many different projects. So generally it's a good idea to have this turned on so that when you ask questions like how do I call the Acme services layer, what you get in response is going to be suggestions and advice that is really tailored to your work and your organization's existing practices rather than just based on generic open source code, right? So in here, it's advising, Tabnine is advising that we call the Acme services layer using something that it has already seen done in the execute Acme services request method in the app class, and it has a step-by-step instructions on how to do that. And then ultimately down the bottom you have references again. So this one here will open up in my IDE the app class that it mentioned and the function that it mentioned, where we have a concrete example of how we in our organization use an established method to call the Acme services layer. Now, another way that Tabnine can help you become familiar with a project is by explaining code to you. So in this example, I'm going to focus on this class here. The main method within this class is something called validate and encrypt password. So I can click on the explain link at the class level here or above any of these functions. So let's go at the class level and see what we get. So we're getting a high level explanation as to what it is that's happening within this class and within the methods. Alternatively, what we can do is if there's some piece of code in here that we want to, dive deep into, you can highlight that code, and then using natural language, you can say, for example, explain what this regex does, and I can say something like step by step. Okay, and so Tabnine is now providing me with some comprehensive explanations as to what each portion of this regex is doing. So this is a great way to, onboard to a new project, or, if you're facing code that is not familiar to you, or, you want to get up and running more quickly. This is a couple of ways that you can do that with Tabnine. So overall, we've looked at a number of approaches here to onboard, navigate our way around our workspace and our projects, and then to also become more familiar with code.